The disappearing truth. How pseudo-leadership rewrites reality. We can all speak pseudo-babble and sound like the smartest person in a room. Just look at Donald Trump, a man who can barely string two thoughts together yet has built one of the largest cults in the world. His followers don't admire coherence, they admire conviction. The louder he speaks, the truer it feels. That same formula now drives modern coaching and leadership culture. The illusion of integral truth. The Coaching Room's Integral Plus Leadership Framework claims to unite subjective and objective truths into a whole truth. It sounds profound, until you try to define it. Then you realize it's just philosophical fog. When leaders talk about all truths and singular points of being, they aren't describing something measurable. They're describing an experience of belief. It's ideology disguised as inclusivity. The word truth becomes elastic. It can stretch to mean anything, provided it fits the framework. Once truth becomes subjective, accountability collapses. Every action, no matter how destructive, can be reframed as my truth, a spiritualized get-out-of-jail card. From framework to faith. At UTS InSearch, this program was more than a professional development course. It became a belief system. Executive Alex Murphy, having already completed the program, been a part of NLP, brought it into the organization because it aligned with his worldview. It wasn't about leadership skills. It was about ideology. Other programs just didn't seem to fit. He told staff in a video shared internally about the program, they could apply what they learned not only at work but in their personal lives and about bringing your whole self to work. That single word, could, opened the door to a kind of psychological creep. Suddenly, private relationships became legitimate territory for a corporate training model. This is how belief systems spread, softly, under the language of possibility. The fallout. My ex-partner learned to see life through that same framework. What began as leadership training evolved into a new way of seeing everything, including me. Love became attachment. Commitment became limitation. Marriage became an obstacle to self-actualization. Not only was our marriage interrogated, her relationship with her own mother was recategorized. A mother who, like me, was a stay-at-home parent, had wasted her life by not chasing more, better. When I showed her the truth of her love for me, during the previous 6 months, they were re-evaluated as moments in time. Or just a different truth. When our relationship collapsed, Murphy allegedly said it showed she'd done the work. The failure of a marriage was treated as proof of the program's success. That's not leadership. That's a belief system devouring reality. This isn't an interpretation, an assumption, guesswork. It was from a conversation between my ex and her boss Carol. When confronted with what I had overheard, she said to me, "There are parts of the program I believe in, but I am not a devotee." Truth without accountability. Throughout it all, truth was everywhere in the language. Subjective truth, objective truth, whole truth. But not one version involved honesty, responsibility, or factual integrity. There was no truth between my ex and her boss regarding the affair. There was no truth between her and Rob, the man she had the affair with. There was no truth when she moved on again, where I was made invisible, for obvious reasons. There was no truth to our kids, who watched their father disintegrate before their eyes. There was no truth to her parents, who cut me off 18 months later after she finally went to see them, despite having supported me until then. Because truth became whatever she needed it to be. The coaching room treats truth as a perspective, not a principle. It's a convenient rebrand of postmodern relativism, packaged for corporate audiences. But once everything is true to someone, nothing needs to be true at all. The damage isn't philosophical, it's personal. Because when my truth replaces the truth, relationships crumble. People get hurt. And those responsible can claim it was all part of their growth. The cult of certainty. Pseudo-intellectual leadership culture thrives on confidence over clarity. It sounds deep. It feels inclusive. But it's built on the same psychological mechanism that fuels political cults and celebrity gurus. Conviction without evidence. When you listen closely, you hear what's missing: self-awareness, humility, and accountability. In their place sits jargon, spiritual abstraction, and the illusion of moral evolution. The more they talk about wholeness, the more fragmented everything becomes. What disappeared? The tragedy isn't just that truth was twisted. It's that it was replaced by something that sounded nobler: growth, awakening, integration. Words that promised evolution but delivered erasure. The coaching room's language of whole truth created a world where honesty was optional, accountability was reframed as resistance, and deception could be called transformation. I watched truth vanish in real time. At work, it became philosophy. At home, it became denial. In the end, truth wasn't something you could rely on. It was whatever someone needed to believe to protect their story. That's the quiet devastation of pseudo-leadership and its moral evasions. It doesn't just rewrite how people speak. It rewrites who they are. And once you learn to live without truth, everything that mattered becomes negotiable.